Happy Wednesday and good afternoon, good morning to some of our viewers and listeners. This is Jasmine Saliga. I'm the founder of Affixify and, of course, your host for Industry Chats. And I am especially excited to have the wonderful and very well known Jaime Job, the founder and CEO of Amaze Insights, with us today. So, Jaime, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having
Oh,
me.
I'm so honored. I feel like, so I had Bob from Event Temple on this series and having you, and I'm like, I feel like these are industry celebrities, and I'm just here to like learn from you guys. So thank you so much. And it's actually fun because your other company, Jaime Job Consulting, is listed on our marketplace. So we kind of have a partnership that we're exploring as well. But Jaime, I would love for you to just do a quick intro and, of course, tell us a little bit about Amaze before we jump into your founder story today.
Terrific. Well, thank you. Yes, I'm thrilled to be here. Jaime Job, I'm a lifetime hospitality person and have worked in hotels and restaurants before that my entire life. And so, um, Amaze Insights is a data analytics platform that brings in data from any sales and catering solution and highlights and aggregates the data in a fantastic and customized and beautiful way. And our original goal when we set out was let's just create the best reporting platform in hospitality that there is. And so that's what we've done. So we specifically work with anybody, but we work with our kind of sweet spot of working with management companies or hotel groups that have multiple hotels and sometimes across brands and systems where they prior to Amaze really didn't have visibility into their entire portfolio. And so they're always relying on people submitting reports or logging in and out of different systems. And so we bring it all together and give best in class reporting.
Amazing. Well, in reports, I mean, I was on a demo right before this, and that's always the question is like, let's talk about reporting. So it's, I mean, right? And before we dive into your story, so for those tuning in today live or on YouTube later, this month we are focused on founder stories, and we actually took, we not took nominations for this. We had a lot of nominations. I actually had our team vote, and I did a pretty thorough like background, what I knew, LinkedIn profile. Like we did this for every nomination. So Jaime and Bob were chosen. And before we dive in, because I want to hear all about your story, Jaime, of how you got here. How did you guys get the name Amaze Insights? Now, clearly, I could take a guess, but Amaze versus amazing, like tell me that part of it.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, originally I created a product that was for, and we'll get into more of this in the founder story section, but that was for forecasting food and beverage. And that's where I came up with Amaze. This was many years back, but it had two A's. And the reason it had two A's, there were two reasons. One, the domain for amaze.com was not available. And, and the second one was because I was trying to play around with this idea of adapt, analyze, and then maximize. So it was like taking those three
Love
really
it.
important targets of like let's analyze what we see, let's adapt to what we're seeing, and then maximize our results because of it. So it's a play on that. And so and then but amaze people would call it amaze or I don't know what it had the two ways. So when we founded Amaze Insights, we dropped the first A or the second A, however you want to say it, and modernized it a little bit.
Okay. Oh, and it's fun because I'll see like Nick Horgan posts like I'm ready to amaze today, or I mean, there's so many ways you can play it up. I think it's brilliant and it's memorable. But let's talk about how you got here. So every founder has a story, but yours is super unique. I want to learn more about it, and I think it helps us to know like we hear about Amaze all the time. You guys have done a phenomenal job with brand recognition. But how did you get to this point? Because surely there had to be a moment where you're like, this is a need, and maybe you were living the problem. I mean, tell me a little bit about your journey to get to where you are sitting today.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to go back a ways because I can't talk about Amaze without also talking about Jaime Job Consulting because they're tightly connected. So when I I've worked in restaurants. I think I started washing dishes at a restaurant when I was about 12, where my mom worked. And so I always worked in restaurants, all kinds of restaurants. And then when I was 18, I moved to Arizona and I got my first hotel job. And I honestly did not think that I was worthy. I had been working in these, I worked at IHOP, and when we had the polyester uniforms with the ruffled sleeves and the whole thing. And I worked at Ross Dress for Less when it was just a shoe store that sold mostly plastic shoes. So like literally, I worked in, fast food, I don't know, different kind of places. And I moved to Arizona and they were opening up this new resort in Tucson, and it was the Lowe's Ventana Canyon Resort. And I did not think I was worthy to work there, not even to sweep the floors. And my stepmom at the time, she kind of pushed me out the door. She lent me her clothes. She said, "You have to go." And I went and I got this job working in the restaurant. And I loved the resort. I absolutely loved it. I loved the experience of opening a hotel and of serving people. And so that started my career in hotels, and I never left. And moved back home to the Seattle area, and I worked for the Sheraton Seattle and then Starwood in lots of capacities for 15 years. And at that time, I started there when I had a typewriter on my desk, and then
I love it.
we got computers and the whole thing. A long story, but I learned Delphi, the sales and catering solution, because people were complaining. I got kind of tired of listening to people complain. So I pick up the phone, I call support. I don't know what I'm talking about. There's 4 guys in a garage in New Hampshire, and I get John. And John says, "Go out to a DOS prompt." And I'm like, "What's a DOS prompt?" And I could hear him roll his eyes on the other end of the line because
I can feel this. I can feel it. I can imagine.
I'm definitely not a tech person. And, one of the things that I really believe strongly is that we are a hospitality company that provides tech and not the other way around. And so anyhow, I worked for Starwood for 15 years and worked on the, Delphi training team for Starwood and managing the support inbox for things that came into us. And then after 9/11, my job was eliminated with Starwood, and I had an opportunity to either stay with Starwood Sheraton in a different role or leave. And so I took my 15-year severance and I started Jaime Job Consulting in October of 2001. I think I ended my job on a Friday, and then I started my new company on a Monday. And
no time wasted.
I didn't have time. And I, essentially we had training scheduled for all these Starwood hotels, and then the team was let go. So I just, with the blessing of Starwood, they were my very first consulting client, and that lasted through today. So, Starwood is no more in the way that it was, but the company is still going on. And I like to talk about that because, you think sometimes that these difficult times in the world and in the economy would be the worst time to start a business. But I'll tell you, the next business I started was Amaze Insights during COVID. So and the way that Amaze Insights came into being was, everywhere I've been for 20 years in Jaime Job Consulting, I had written, and prior to that in Starwood, I wrote custom reports, I answered questions, I interpreted data for people everywhere I went, over and over and over again, in whatever the solution was of the day or whatever system they had. And, I just always felt there has to be a better way to solve this problem. And there's a great part of this that is understanding what you mean, not what you say, right? So people say whatever, but you have to understand what somebody means, and then from there you can interpret it and build what they need. And so during COVID, ex-Starwood partner with Sonesta came to me and said, "We need to build a reporting platform, and can you help?" And I said, "I know just who to call." And I called Mike Kenny, who worked for Newmarket for many years, and then And we had done a couple of projects and been wanting to get something off the ground, but just didn't have the right opportunities. That was how Amaze Insights was launched, and we were really fortunate to work with like-minded people at Sonesta who wanted to build out their reporting. So that's how it started.
I mean, that's phenomenal. So tell me a little bit, because I resonate with you a lot in the sense of like wanting to have a hospitality service, but you happen to need tech to do that. I think that's exactly, I understand. How did you guys go from now, okay, Sonesta has a need, we know this is a need and we know how to do it, but we're going to build it. So did Mike do the building? Did you guys bring in a developer? Like, cause I know there is there's some stages there to get a product off the ground. So what was that like in 2020?
I mean, it was just us. we just, we just built it. And, Mike's a fantastic developer, and he knows the data and he knows how it's structured in the back, especially Delphi related.
Yeah.
And I understood the need. And, I read a great quote the other day, and I wish I had it in front of me with the author, but it said, if you want to be valuable, be in business, be an interpreter. Right.
Yeah.
So, and it was
true.
And I felt that so deeply, because often, again, it's going back to understanding what you meant, not what you said. And so I was able to interpret the need and give it to Mike in a way that he could build it. And so together we were able to build a great platform. And again, with great partners at Sonesta who, I had worked with before, so we could communicate well. So that was it. It was two of us for the first couple of years.
Okay. That's phenomenal. And then, so now I have all these other like spin-off questions, because I think it gets me so excited. And honestly, it's very inspiring when I hear these types of stories, right? Because like you said, a lot of people would have been like, you're crazy to do this in a time that's challenging. But I happen to read a lot that the best times to invest in anything, right, is when things seem low, because no one else is doing it. And clearly that's been your story. So did you guys have a plan for launch, or was it like, we want to get this up and running with Sonesta and then we'll figure out launching it on a greater level? Or did you go organic, like, let's just use our network? And I mean, how did you get from that now to where you guys are so recognized? I know there's always, marketing and things like that, but surely you had a journey to get to now where you are today.
We did. I mean, we originally, not surprising, our first customers were Jaime Job Consulting legacy relationships, right? So people that I have known for many years, who I had written many reports for, were our perfect target audience. So we started with this, it was organic in the network that we had. And we weren't really marketing, and we kind of viewed this as a lifestyle business where we could be successful and, and grow the product. But we got approached in 2022 by Nick Horgan, who had been, working with with Ford Blakely on looking for something to invest in next. And so we partnered with our investment group beginning in November of 2022. And so that really changed the scale and trajectory of the company, because, we now had a little bit of funding. We had Nick, who's, as very well known and phenomenal salesperson. And so, and that all came about. I mean, he'll tell this story 1,000 times, but we had, he's probably told it 1,000 times, but we, as proof of concept, they were kind of looking at what we were doing and said, we don't know whether there's a need. So they wanted to do a proof of concept call. And we had a conversation with Aimbridge, and it was not intended to be a sales pitch, because again, two people, right? This is me and Mike, right? We did a presentation with an Aimbridge, a group of people at Aimbridge, along with the potential investors, and Aimbridge not only said, yeah, this is a great idea, but we want to buy. So
I've heard this story, because I mean, that's phenomenal. That's like unheard of, right? And so obviously the investors were like, duh.
Yeah. So that really changed everything for us. So we're so grateful for Aimbridge, because they put a lot of faith in this. I don't know that they realized it was a 2-person company.
Hey, that's okay.
but we were able to launch successfully and grow the company, and we've been kind of off and running ever since. So
Yeah.
it's fantastic, really. I mean, I think what we've done at Amaze is build out. It's funny. I know you're probably going to have more questions for me, but I'll say, we started out with this goal of creating the best reporting analytics and platform that there could
Right.
be, right? And then we did it, and then almost immediately the need was, we want to see dashboard reporting. I don't
Yeah.
want to read a report anymore. I don't want to look for the line and the row and the cell. I want to look at a dashboard, and in 5 seconds or less, I need 5 key pieces of information, and I need to know what it says.
Yeah.
We did that. Now we don't want to read the dashboard.
Yeah.
We just want the AI summary. We just want,
Yes. Yeah.
tell me what happened and what I got to do to fix it, and I'm not going to do it
Wow.
anymore. So it's quite challenging to keep up with the pace of the. It's an attention span, but it's also just everyone's going so quickly that they don't have time. So
Yeah.
it's been interesting.
Oh, it's fun. I mean, and you mentioned like AI summary. I mean, I think now that's one of the first questions I hear all the time is like, how are you leveraging AI, or what's the plan for AI? Even a year ago, I think that question people weren't asking. So it is, things are moving quickly.
Yeah.
Buyers are moving much more quickly, and they have different expectations. So, but I mean, I have no doubt you guys are keeping up with that. And I mean, your story, it's so inspiring. And I have to ask, did you have like an aha moment? I like to ask every guest this. Did you have a moment, or maybe it wasn't just one, and it could be when you were, 13 or 12 washing dishes all the way up to now, but have you had that aha moment in your career that really either validated what you're doing or made you think someone has to do this?
I think there have been many. I don't think there was just one. I think that it can be really scary to take a risk, and I think you were talking with Bob about having faith in whatever your journey is bringing to you, and I think taking that leap and just believing that in your core that you got something that's going to solve a problem for people. And for us, similarly to Bob, like the point was,
Right.
let's fill a need. It wasn't the goal was never let me build the thing that's going to make a ton of money. It was always what is the need and how can we fill it.
Yeah.
And that's still our focus now, is what is the need and how can we fill it. And when you know that, and you have an opportunity, you could talk yourself out of it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started my consulting business and I got 4 kids at home, and
Yeah.
needed 2 incomes, and I lost, like that was terrifying. But there's a need and there's an opportunity, and Sarah Blakely is one of our investors, and her, I anytime I have doubt, or like I feel like I'm in over my head, or I don't know anything. Such a learning journey.
Yeah.
Think about what she's done, and I think about her sort of, I'm going to not quote her properly, but um, her mantra that she just says yes to things, and she figures out the details later, so
Yes.
making Spanx in her kitchen, and then she gets
Yeah.
from Oprah, and they say, can you scale if we put you on the favorite things list? And she says, yes, of course I can. No operation. Can we come in 2 weeks and see your operation? Of course you can. She has. I mean, like I know I'm misquoting, but I take a lot of inspiration from that, because you can scare yourself out of saying yes to these things when they come. And so it takes a leap of faith to go for it. So anytime I feel that, I'm like, we're going to make it happen. We're going to figure it out.
I love it.
Doesn't mean it's not ever without bumps in the road, but you got to have a little faith.
You do. Well, absolutely. And in fact, I shared something from her recently, and I will also butcher this, but she said something along the lines of, it was on Instagram, your calling will keep calling until you follow it. And it's like, that is so true. And she had also said something recently I read about that she had this, this gut feel like this is the right thing, and that she would take small breaks occasionally and be like, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. Maybe this is a crazy idea. And I think as female entrepreneurs, we probably really resonate with that at different parts of our journeys. And then she said, but she always came back to it. And I'm so glad you did this. I'm so glad you didn't let COVID or, any of those outside things impact you, because look where you guys are at today. And I can only imagine the potential of where you all are going. So I think, it's phenomenal. And just seeing the team you've built, I feel like lately I've been seeing a lot of growth announced team-wise as well for Amaze.
It's true. We have grown our team, I think, at least 30% in a year, but then our portfolio, our platform has grown. So we have to keep up. So it's great. It's way beyond anything I thought I would build. So I'm thrilled.
Phenomenal. Well, congratulations. It's really cool to watch. You have obviously the best evangelists on your team for Amaze. And I mean, with Nick and all of it. So it's such an honor to have you on. And if our listeners, obviously they can find you through the show, but a lot of times they want to know, like, hey, how could I talk to Jaime, or how can I learn more about Amaze? What's the best way for them to do that?
I think LinkedIn is the best. I think you can email me, but no one will remember. But it's Job at amazeinsights.com. But I think LinkedIn's probably easiest to just to connect. So, and I would love to connect with anyone who has questions.
Perfect. So find Jaime Job on LinkedIn. And if anybody has any additional questions, I'm sure she would love to chat. Jaime, thank you for being on our show. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And we'll have to do it again. Maybe we do a recap next year to see how the next
where we are. Yes.
And for our listeners, we will be off next week for the holiday, but the following week we kick off a fun week where I'm actually doing 3 shows in a week. So I'm going to need a lot of caffeine. We're featuring 3 different companies that we've met through pitch competitions over the last year and a half that are doing new and innovative things. So don't miss us the first week of December. And with that, Jaime, thank you. And we hope to have you on again very soon. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.